I was out walking the dogs earlier today and came across this lovely little ficus microcarpa bonsai. And whilst I was admiring it, two elderly gentlemen turned up with their walking sticks, and they also admired the bonsai for a few moments. They then carried on walking their way. And I did too until I came to a bench. And that's when I sat down and thought about what had just happened. I started to analyze my own behavior and that of the old men. And that's when I realized we had both been admiring the same thing, but we were doing it in very different ways. The old guys had been looking at the tree and its surroundings as a means to get them from point A to point B, whereas I had stopped and I was taking time to observe my environment and appreciate what I was seeing. They were focused on getting to their next destination, whereas I was appreciating the journey. In some ways, the fact that I stopped and took time to admire what I was seeing is natural human behavior. After all, we're all curious by nature. But in others, it's the behavior of a bonsai practitioner. You see, when you're growing a bonsai, it's not just about shaping the branches and leaves into an aesthetically pleasing design. It's about understanding how trees grow and adapt to their environment over time. It's about being patient enough to allow that process to unfold. It's about developing an intimate relationship with your tree, and it's about taking time to stop and appreciate the journey. It is about being able to sit back and appreciate the beauty of the tree in its current state, even if it's not yet at its final destination. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the importance of observation and patience in bonsai, and how these two qualities are essential to creating a truly great bonsai. Let's start with observation. When you have a bonsai, it's important to watch it over time. This means monitoring how it responds to the elements, how the soil moisture changes, how the foliage changes color and texture over the seasons, and how it grows. All of these factors will affect the overall health and appearance of your bonsai, and they can tell you a lot about what kind of care it needs. For example, if you notice that the leaves are starting to turn yellow or brown, it could mean that the soil is too wet or that the tree isn't getting enough light. By paying attention to these signs, you can adjust your watering and fertilizing schedule accordingly and keep your bonsai healthy and thriving. In addition to observing the tree itself, it's also important to pay attention to its surroundings. This includes the weather, the type of soil where it's planted, and the types of plants growing around it. All of these factors can affect the bonsai's growth and development, and they can give you clues as to what kind of care it needs. For example, if you live in a hot, dry climate, you'll need to water your bonsai more frequently than if you lived in a cooler, wetter climate. Similarly, if you're growing a deciduous tree, you'll need to fertilize it more during the growing season than if you're growing an evergreen. By paying attention to the tree's surroundings and adjusting your care routine accordingly, you can help your bonsai thrive. And that brings me nicely onto the second point, which is patience. Bonsai is a long-term commitment, and it takes time to develop a bonsai into a mature tree with a strong trunk and beautiful branching structure. It's important to be patient and let the tree grow at its own pace. Rushing the process can result in damage to the tree, and it can actually stunt its growth. Instead, take the time to observe the tree and make small adjustments over time. This will help you create a bonsai that is not only beautiful, but also healthy and resilient. When you first get a bonsai, it might seem like it's in a state of perpetual adolescence. It may have thin, spindly branches and a sparse canopy. But with time and care, it will eventually reach maturity and the branches will thicken, the canopy will fill out, and the trunk will become gnarled and textured. This is a process that can take years or even decades, but it's worth it if you're willing to be patient. It's also important to be patient when pruning and training the branches. Bonsai practitioners often use a technique called aerial root pruning to keep the root balls small and the tree healthy. This involves cutting away the roots that grow above the base of the trunk each year. It may seem counterintuitive, but Removing these roots actually encourage the tree to grow stronger and healthier roots below the surface. It takes time to see the results of aerial root pruning, but with patience, you'll eventually see the benefits. Finally, be patient when it comes to styling the bonsai. Styling a bonsai is a creative process that should reflect the tree's unique character. It's tempting to try to force the tree into a particular style, but this can damage the tree and ruin its natural beauty. Instead, take the time to observe the tree's natural growth patterns and work with them, not against them. With patience, you'll eventually create a style that complements the tree's natural beauty. Another aspect of patience in bonsai is accepting that sometimes things don't go as planned. There are many factors beyond our control that can affect the health. An appearance of a bonsai, such as pests, diseases, extreme weather events, and even the tree's own genetics. Sometimes these factors can cause significant damage to a bonsai, and there's often no way to prevent them from happening. In these situations, it's important to remain calm and assess the damage before deciding what to do next. Sometimes the damage is so severe that the tree cannot be saved, and in those cases, it's best to euthanize the tree humanely. However, in most cases, there is something that can be done to save a damaged bonsai. With patience, care, and attention, it's possible to nurse a damaged bonsai back to health. Let's talk about pests and diseases. They're unfortunately a fact of life for bonsai growers. Pests such as mealybugs, aphids, and spider mites can cause significant damage to a bonsai if left untreated. Diseases such as root rot and fungal infections can also be devastating. Fortunately, there are treatments available for most pests and diseases, but it takes time to apply them correctly and to see the results. It's important not to panic if your bonsai is infested with pests or disease. Instead, remain calm and assess the situation, then take the appropriate steps to treat the problem. With patience, you can save your bonsai from pests and diseases and keep it healthy and thriving. We also need to be patient with ourselves. We all make mistakes sometimes. We overwater a bonsai, sometimes we underwater it. We prune a branch incorrectly, or we allow pests to go unchecked. These mistakes can damage a bonsai, but they can also teach us valuable lessons about how to care for our trees. The important thing is to learn from our mistakes and to be patient with ourselves when they happen. Nobody's perfect, and we're all going to make mistakes along the way, but that's part of the journey. So be patient with yourself, learn from your mistakes, and enjoy the process. If you want to know how I make my bonsai soil mix, click here. If you want to know how I water my bonsai, click here.